Oh, this is random, but as far as I know, this is the first Asian American record ever put out in 1970. And by Asian American, I mean by people who identified as Asian American as opposed to Japanese or Chinese American. But I just picked this up from the woman who put it out, Nobuko Miyamoto, who's Miyamoto right there. And yeah, this came out in 1970. It was produced by an R&B producer out of the Midwest, Will Crittenden. And this is kind of a little piece of like Asian American musical history right here. So yeah, kind of a trip. Yeah, I'm Oliver Wang, author of the new Legions of Boom, Filipino-American mobile DJ cruise of the San Francisco Bay Area on Duke University Press. I'm a professor of sociology down at Cal State Long Beach, but I started this research back when I was a graduate student at UC Berkeley, and this was around 2001, 2002. And it's taken me a little bit to sort of get it to book stage, but finally came out with it in the spring of 2015. So back in the mid-90s, I was a DJ. I worked at KALX, which is Berkeley's college radio station. I was a music journalist. I was writing for a bunch of places around the Bay Area. And of course, I was well aware of people like Q-Bird and Shortcut and Mixmaster Mike and the Scratch Pickles being, these world-dominant Filipino-American DJs from the Bay Area. And as a journalist, I got to talk to them about how they got started. And the one thing that I noticed that they all had this common origin story about being part of these mobile crews. And this got me thinking, there were a lot of people writing about kind of the birth of scratching and the birth of turntablism. I didn't see that many people outside of maybe, Davey D up in the Bay Area really talking about the Filipino-American mobile scene. And as both a journalist and a scholar, this seemed to me like a really good story to try to track down. And that's really where the seed got planted. The gateway drug was De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising. And I listened to it in the summer of 1989. And that was the album that basically just sucked me into hip hop. But before that, I was listening to mostly like modern rock stuff. What else was I listening to? I listened to a little bit of hip hop like in '86 because a friend of mine made me a mixtape. It wasn't a mixtape. He made a dub tape that had Raising Hell on one side and License to Ill on the other. But because I was so young and so ignorant, I had no idea that this was like a genre of music. So I really liked what I heard on those two things. It just didn't occur to me that if I liked this stuff, I could go out and find other stuff like, BDP or like Eric B. and Rakim. I had no idea that stuff existed until '89. And then I heard De La Soul. I'm like, this is amazing. I want to know everything there is about like what this stuff is. And then I discovered K-Day, I discovered The Source, and I just kind of went in from there. So I don't know if you know about these guys, please. This is them. Filipino group from the Philippines, but they recorded, this was recorded for a German label. And part of the reason why I got turned on to them was because they recorded a version of Sing a Simple Song by Sly and the Family Stone that ended up getting comped on the Ultimate Beats and Breaks series, right? So like a lot of hip hop DJs, that was the way in which they got to play a lot of the old funk and soul breaks. And for a long time, they didn't put any credits on like who recorded it, but it was this group out of the Philippines recording for a German label. I think this is the break. Let me hear my...
Oh, that was nice. Let me hear Babu now. Yeah. Let me hear money now. Now let me hear my man now, Mike. Let's sing it all together now. Sing it loud now. Come on, keep on doing now.
So yeah, I've always loved the fact that a Filipino group covering Sly and the Family Stone ends up on the the UBB series, which it's just one of those kind of quirks of history and a real testament to the digging power of the guys who put together the Ultimate Beats and Breaks series back in the 1980s, that they would end up finding like a German album recorded by a bunch of guys from Manila, doing Sly and the Family Stone. So yeah, that's Please. To me, the most amazing thing about the story that I tell in the book is that this was this incredible, massive, cross-county, involving thousands of young people, movement, scene, whatever you want to call it, and it was led primarily by high school teenagers. I mean, a lot of these cats started before they were old enough to drive, but they managed to figure out how to set up, concert quality lighting, structures. They were mixing as good as any, experienced nightclub DJ out there in the city. They were signing contracts with school administrators and, church officials, and basically conducting business. And they were basically figuring this out all on their own at the ages of 15, 16, 17 years old. I think that's an amazing story. We tend to write off young people as lacking the kind of experience or expertise to be able to look after themselves. But I think the story of this scene is that you give a young person the right incentive, right? The kind of creative potential that something like the mobile scene created, and they will amaze you with that. And to this day, that's still the part of this story that I find most inspiring, is the idea that they were so young, yet they managed to create this scene that was so massive, so rich, with a legacy that's been so important to not just Filipino Americans, but really to sort of Bay Area musical history.